to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a great guy, a great human being, an evolved human being with a new album and a #1 album. His name is Big Sean. He's back, Detroit 2, a phenomenal
Detroit.
project. Listen, man, I'm very, and I think everybody on the show, we was talking how excited we were when the album dropped, and even more happy that when we went through it song by song, this album's fire, bro.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Damn.
This album's fire.
You came through, Sean.
It took a lot. Yeah? Oh, fuck. I thought I was going to get on here and get, like, bashed. Damn.
What?
Bro, you wildin', bro. Get out of here.
I was ready to just, like, take the – I was ready to take
what is
it,
that?
man. Like,
Yo, what is that based on?
I put my tough skin on today. It's like, no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing. No, I know you guys been showing love. I just know you guys are always real with it, though. You know, you guys never, like – If you
sure.
Like it, you ain't come with it this time, or you know.
No, we would just not really talk about the album.
We would skip over the album and be so happy for your health and your mental health and all this other shit. We'd be like, yo, man, but you're happy though, man.
Exactly. No, man, the album was a process, bro. It was a process.
Well, it took how long for you to actually get this to the people?
Probably like 2 years. I didn't work on the album the whole time. Like, the last album I put out was I Decided 2017, and I wasn't working on it the whole time because honestly, I just wasn't inspired. I didn't know what was wrong with me. You know, I felt like broken. I was like burnt out. I couldn't really explain it because nobody around me ever went through it. You know, so like. I come from a family where it was like my grandma was in the military, my granddad, and they were loving people, but they didn't know how to express their emotions, you know? So I feel like that trickled down to my generation. I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. So it was hard for me to get through the day. So it was definitely like deep depression. It was definitely a lot of anxiety. Felt like I was doing it for like everybody else except me, you know? And I was confused because rapping or making music in general, right? That was always my passion. That was my happy place, and it wasn't making me happy anymore. And I wasn't making the music I wanted to. So it was just like, I just felt like hopeless. You know what I'm saying? I felt like giving up on my life in general. I just felt like all these things. And I was super confused. So what I did was I just had to stop everything I was doing, and I lost a lot of opportunities, a lot of deals, a lot of money, you know, because I didn't want to be on social media like that at the time. I didn't want to post. I didn't want to like go places like that. And it was tough. You know, it was definitely a scary thing too, because it's like when you stop, it's kind of like, you know, you're in a music industry that keeps going. It's like, oh, you got to stay hot. You got to stay on their necks. You got to stay consistent. That's like that's all I've been hearing since 2008. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it was a test of my faith, and on top of that though, it was a cool process, and it's still a process. It's not like I'm like a new evolved human being. I'm not. I'm just know how to deal with the anxiety. I know how to deal with the pressures and the depressions, the ups and downs. I just know how to deal with it better, you know. And that came from therapy. That came from me spiritually getting more in tune with myself and deeper, you know, have a deeper foundation there. That came from me being up in my communication skills, like being able to really talk to somebody. Like I had bad communication skills. Like I couldn't express myself to somebody or just let them know how I feel like that. I don't know why. It's just how it was, you know? And I remember my dad was telling me like last year that he got inspired to go to therapy himself because he was like, damn, something I really need to do too. You know, he's a nice guy. Doesn't ever want to piss anybody off. And it's like he needed to express himself too. So it was cool to see that rub off on like my family members too.
Yeah, because the album, I gotta say, for me as a listener, I always was like, yo, Big Sean's an amazing rapper. But on this album, and you know, I heard you talk about your family in Detroit and love, and you know how important your family members are to you, and coming up, and how important taking care of your family is to you, and taking care of your mom and your grandma and all this. But I think on this album there's a pivot into a little bit of purpose, like you just articulated, a little bit more. Like it's a layer deeper than I think you've ever gone before. And I'm appreciative of that as a listener because I think it made me more of a fan of yours, to be honest.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Because I think it's there's more of a human element here. You know what I mean? In every song.
There's an ad-lib spot too at the end of one of the records where you're kind of like you were kind of preaching. Like I was in the car driving with some people and we were listening kind of casual. Everyone was listening to the album, but like I really tuned into this one part where you were kind of talking about getting through something, you know? And you said regret. What was the line you said about regret? Regret is just when you haven't learned the lesson yet?
Yeah, regret is only there because you haven't forgiven yourself or you haven't learned your lesson yet.
And yeah, when that whole part, that whole little ad lib part I was like, damn, Big Sean's really gone through some stuff over the last few years. You know,
yeah,
it was evident.
Sure. I had to learn how to forget. That was one of the things I had to do was learn how to forgive myself. Like I'm somebody who holds on to like, if things don't go my way or if like I hold on to, I'm like very emotional. So like I'll hold on to like I can't even remember because I've like tried to get it out of myself. But there's been times I just feel like that I've like, if I regret something or do something I ain't really like all the way or things didn't go my way, it is like I hold on to it and it's just like that ain't doing nothing, you know, for nobody, especially me. It's just weighing me down more. So that's one of the things you got to forgive your people. You know, it's family members I had to forgive. It's like I had to forgive my dad for some stuff. I had to forgive like people and just know that we just human beings, you know? It's like, I know growing up, I used to look at my parents and used to look at like older people like they were saints, like they could do no wrong. But it's just like, really, my parents was just kids having kids too, you know, figuring it out as well. They may have made some mistakes and may have, you know, said something that they didn't really even mean all the way, you know? So that's something that I had to learn and realize. But I mean, another thing I feel like is that, you know, I was on here talking about a lot of things like my heart. I had a heart disease when I was 19. I had like all these different, you know, things that happened to me when I was younger. And it was like, I almost forgot about them because I was tuning them out of my life. But one of the things that I was doing when I was like, I meditate every day. And sometimes I do this meditation. And this helped me return to my passion because when you do something for over 10 years, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, it's kind of like you may have gotten to a point where it starts to get dull to you or not as exciting. And you got to figure out how to reignite that. You got to figure out how to make your life exciting again for you. And I was definitely at that point. And one of the ways I did that was when I meditated, I would go back to when I was like 18 years old. I would go back to like the first time I went to New York or the first time I was like, you know, how bad I wanted it when I was sleeping in the studio, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it really helped me get back into that mode. And that was one of the real reasons I called it Detroit too, is because I feel like I was returning back to that passion and that hunger I had when I made Detroit, but like a new and improved version of that, you know? So.
But that's what it sounded like to me, is that you were saying was that maybe part of the depression was around getting used to this whole thing. Because, like, this was all such a dream. And when you get – this is your third #1 album in a row, bro. Like, there's only so much high you're still going to get from achievements. So it's about how do you just enjoy the ride as opposed to constantly, you know, seeking out goals. And to your point, I feel that completely. My dream was to be on Hot 97. I've been doing it for fucking 12 years. You know, like –
right.
How do you keep finding happiness without going sort of destructive and making bad decisions to find exciting things?
Yeah. And it was just like, for me, that was just returning. Actually, it was like not only just returning to the passion, but realizing what my purpose is for real. And I realized, okay, my purpose isn't really to be a rapper. My purpose is to inspire. That's my purpose, like to inspire people to just either like be their higher version, to turn up to like whatever it is they want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like that's my real purpose, and I could do that through the music. So it's like that's my #1 way of doing it. And when I realized that, the music changed for me a little bit. Like it's still me, but the essence of it has a little bit more of like just purpose in it, you know? So that's at least what I feel from this project. And that's what makes it a little different than the other ones, you know?
In preparing
Just
for
on
this,
that?
oh, sorry, Laura, go ahead.
No, just on that, because I saw the clip that you posted last night, and it was so dope for just you walking up to your old childhood home and just reminiscing on purpose. You know what I mean, and reminding you on what, like, why you did things. And I thought that was beautiful. Like, how often do you go back to your home, your original
All the
home where
time.
you grew up?
All the time. I ride past there. I go back to every time I go to this deli that's like on the corner, like literally 30 seconds from where that clip was. And I go out there, I hand out $100 bills to everybody there. You know, they for sure get excited and they just show love, you know. And it's not the best neighborhood either, but I never feel like, I always feel like comfortable and like home, you know what I mean? Because they embrace me heavy, especially like in that block radius right there. And my grandma's house is like, or old house, it's like 3 or 4 minutes from there too. And you know, people just, it's cool to always like go home and show that love, man. And I'm even thinking like, damn, I probably need to like my family sold that house when I bought a house for my mom and my grandma like a long time ago. We ended up selling that house, and I'm like, damn, I need to buy this house back.
Buy it
for
now,
real.
B.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I
like,
know.
as soon as we get off this call. Like right
Yeah,
now,
for
right
real.
now. Like close on that joint right now because
Yeah.
they, you know, that real estate in Detroit,
And
it's moving.
it's crazy. I
And they
know
gonna
my
try,
dad,
and they gonna
like,
try
got,
to
like,
move them
lots.
people too. They gonna try to move all them people out.
I know. You know, Detroit is chocolate city. It's the most black city in America, like by volume. There's no other place blacker than Detroit. It's crazy.
Sean, I had planned to ask you coming into this conversation, because this album definitely felt deeper, and I feel like I learned the most about you, not just where you're from, but like how you think and how you feel on this album.
Yeah.
And I was under the impression the reason it took you 2 years to deliver an album was because you were sharing more of yourself than you had ever shared before, and that was scary. Like, you know, I know artists deal with that transition of like, damn, okay, I'm about to.
Fuck. Scary as fuck. I'm not gonna lie.
And so and that's kind of what I want to ask you, even after these self-realizations, to put this into recorded material for the world to now digest. I would love to hear you articulate what you went through in just getting comfortable to share. Because I'm sure there's tons of recorded material you've never shared with people before. All artists have tons of songs and shit. They're like, I ain't putting that shit out. I don't want nobody to hear that. I ain't saying that, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But this album feels like you shared some things that, you know, were definitely scary.
Yeah. It just was it was just a leap of faith because it's like, okay, I'm on here talking about like losing a baby or like taking magnesium and like, you know, being zen the fuck out. It's like, I ain't rap about anything that, you know, it was just so different subject matter than anything that I've been listening to and enjoying in music at the time, but I feel like it was needed. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think nobody rapped about a brick on this album or fucking.
Well, I was saying it wasn't enough boys on this album. I ain't had no boys. Wasn't a boy on this album.
There might have been a couple on there, but like it was something that I feel like, okay, let me just articulate what I needed in my life at the time, and I needed motivation, I needed inspiration, I needed to feel lifted up. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like if I need that, I'm sure other people need that. So that's something I kept in mind. And then I was just like, you know, the people who gonna feel it. You know, you can't make everybody and you can't please everybody. So that's kind of at the end I came to that realization. It's like, you know, it's different, but it's just me. And at least it's honest. And when I look back on it, like when I have kids and grandkids and I look back at this period in time where we was on lockdown and we was, you know, in this pandemic, it's like at least I did my part as much I could to, you know, inspire, to uplift, and to say how I feel, you know.
Did you
'Cause
really
that's
buy
more than a lot of people could say.
Did you really buy Slash's old crib?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
That's real. When did Slash from Guns N' Roses live in that house?
Not too long ago. It's like I redid the whole house, but there's like a club that he had a whole nightclub in here, so I kept the club.
What?
The shit is like crazy. I would take you guys down there, but it's like
Chill. We need to.
The house is kind of huge, so
We're
it's a
gonna
club
have
down
Ike
there.
bring the Nutcrackers from uptown. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna do it right.
Have you used the club yet?
One time we did. It's like I don't really like party like that much. Not on no boring shit. I don't like people in my house like that though. You know.
Right.
So,
Wait. Did he leave you with any kind of memorabilia?
yeah, it's like some. Yeah. Yes, he did. But like I said, I redid the whole thing because I don't know what type of shit he had going on. in here, you know?
I was about to say, are you sure you went in them walls in there? Because it might be some old classic cocaine stash in them jump.
Everybody who knew him that I run into, they'd be like, "Oh, you bought Slash's crib?" Oh man, I'd be like, "What happened there?" They'd be like, they be telling me all sorts of shit, porn parties. I'd be like, "Oh hell no, I gotta sanitize and I redid everything."
Mad Sage and Palo Santo after.
For sure,
Right.
for sure.
Yo,
For
man.
sure. That's any house I go into, but yeah, for sure.
Yo, some of the features on here are like features one might have expected on a Big Sean album, just from people we know that you collaborate with and who are of sort of your generation. And then there are some that like maybe are names I didn't expect to see on this particular project that were really cool to me. The Dom Kennedy feature, the Dwelle.
Yeah.
How did some of those ones come to be?
Man, I'm gonna keep it real. Like Hit Boy, you know, he's obviously one of the executive producers on the album. He's like a connector. You know what I mean? He's like somebody who, like, even though me and Nas is you know homies and we collabed before, like, he was the reason I was on Nas' album because he was doing Nas's album too, and while we were finishing mine up. So he's like the hardest working producer.
Yeah,
I
I wanted to interview him just to figure out what he eating in the morning lately because this guy's delivering.
He on it.
He's on fire.
Nah, I'm finna go to the studio with him right after this, but he just is like, you know, him and Dom, you know, they like this. And me and Dom, you know, we used to do mixtape, like, you know, my old mixtapes, me and Dom, we did a song called Fat Raps he was on. And that's been my boy. We just never really like got in like that until this album. So Dom, you know what I'm saying? Dwelle, same with Dwelle. Dwelle was on my first album. And it was just like, for the sequel to this project, like Detroit was like my most popular mixtape. And the mixtape, it was like a festival that I brought to Detroit, it felt like, because it had a lot of features. And that's kind of what I wanted to repeat on this one. It was like, I wanted to bring people to Detroit and like them to feel the energy of it, but not just have people from Detroit, like have people from other places that like got love for the city too, you know? So, you know, everybody just caught that vibe. And Dwelle, you know, I got so much love for Dwelle. He one of my favorite like soul artists, you know? So it was just easy. You know, every collaboration was something that wasn't forced.
When's
there are a lot of collabs that I
from?
didn't. The Nipsey record, so that's another thing. Hit Boy was working with Nipsey, and I remember me and Nipsey was at the on the run tour. We was on the run tour backstage with each other, and Hit Boy came on to both of us like, "Man, I got something for y'all," and we was like, "Okay," you know, I hadn't seen Hit Boy in years, and me and Nip had always been talking and doing business together because my producer I signed did the intro to Victory Lap. And had us. We was sending each other tracks back and forth, like a few different ones. And I was also going through a period in my life where I just wasn't coming up with the music like I wanted to. Like, it was harder for me to like finish stuff, you know. And people go through this. I was talking to J. Cole about this too. He'd be going through it sometimes, and like, it's just something that artists go through, where they go through a period where they're inspired and somewhere they're not. So I feel like I was going through a dry patch at the time. We were sending tracks back and forth a lot, and then I started working with Hit Boy, and Nip was already working with Hit Boy. So I remember Hit being like, man, I got this track. Like, you know, and Nip was my dog. I remember that this is like, not to be sad like this, but I had talked to Nip, you know, he had hit me like the week that, you know, that it went down, that he lost his life. And I remember even the night before, I took my mom to see Hamilton in Detroit. And he had commented under our picture, and he just always was like, he always appreciated the relationship I had with my family. Like, that was something he would always hit me up about, like. And so I could tell that he was Nip had to be super close to his family, super family oriented, and just like, you know, one of those guys like that. And I remember I got sent the beat a while ago, and I just never did it. I never really got to it. And I remember I got the news that he got shot, and I was in Detroit doing some charity work. And it was just like, okay, like, he's gonna be all right. And then it just kept, you know, we have the same management too. Like, I kept getting all these calls that it kept getting worse and worse. And then somebody hit me and was like, man, he got shot in the head. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like, I just remember crying, because I was like, damn, I was like, man, I kept thinking he was going to pull it through even when I heard that. Then I got the news that he died right before the plane took off. And I saw somebody walking past with a Crenshaw hat on. Literally at that moment, I found out. And I was like, just crying on the plane, crying the whole flight till I fell asleep. And I remember I got back in the studio, and I probably just had like a scratch to that beat. And then I remember Hit was like, man, you gotta finish this one. And I remember like tearing up and being like, bro, I don't even feel right. You know what I'm saying? And I remember Dom was in there too. And Dom was like, no, it's hard. Like, honor bro, you know? So I did the verse because I got inspired to do the verse because all the things that have been going on. And, you know, we had the clip of him talking about, you know, I'm gonna lock in with all the Detroit. I gotta lock in with all the Detroit. And it felt right. But at the same time, I didn't want to move wrong at all. You know what I'm saying? But his family got behind it, all his people, all money in, you know, his brother and everybody just supported it, and they was with it, and they liked it, and they were like, man, you honor him, bro, you know? So that's just how it happened, because obviously on the record, I was rapping from a perspective after he passed too, you know? And it was for sure an honor, a privilege, but it was a hard record for me to get through too. Right. I can't lie.
Appreciate you sharing that story with us too, bro.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Yeah, because everybody, you know, it's been a tough year for everybody, you know, in so many ways. And a tough, you know, even the stories on your album, listening to Chappelle and Badu and Stevie Wonder talk about Detroit. You know what I mean? That was a dope way to really bring what you articulated a little bit ago, with kind of bringing people to celebrate Detroit and honor Detroit in the way that you always have and continue to do on this project. Well, how did those stories come about? Like, did you reach out to them because you knew, I mean, y'all already got a relationship and you knew how they felt about Detroit, or how did that happen?
It was like, I knew that I wanted stories because on Detroit, the first one on the mixtape, I have stories from like Snoop. I have stories from Common talking about how he worked with Jay Dilla and Jeezy, because, you know, Jeezy, people love Jeezy and the D, like he from there. It's like the craziest thing, like, because I guess the BMF connection was real.
Right.
It was just real known, you know. So I was like, man, how can I continue that, that storyline of like having people tell stories that really are stories that people may not know, some that just like catches you by surprise. So, and we had a long list of names. I was like thinking even Dennis Rodman. I was thinking like there's a whole bunch of people to reach out to. And then I ran into Dave Chappelle hopping off a plane, and he was hopping on a plane. This was like at 5 a.m. And I'm walking up to Dave Chappelle. It was my first time meeting him. And he's like, yo, man, I love your dad. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, And he was like, your dad, man. He's like, gee, I love you too, man. I love your music, man, but I love your dad. And I immediately went back to a conversation I had with my dad like a few months ago. And he was like, yo, man, I was just with Dave Chappelle. Like, I was at his concert, man, backstage. Yo, son, he loves your music, man. He loves Dark Sky Paradise. Like, oh, man, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I was with him, man. I think sometimes I be thinking my dad be over exaggerating stuff.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, Dad, you hung out with Chappelle. Sure.
I'm like, cool. You hung out with him? He's like, no, I hung out with him for real. Like, he knows me. I'm like, okay, cool, for sure. Like, all right, Dad, I love you, peace, And then Chappelle, this is the first thing Chappelle tells me. So I immediately afterwards called my dad, like, oh, fuck, like, my bad. I didn't know you meant, like, you really hung out with him. And Chappelle, I told Chappelle, like, what I was doing, because I had a session with John Mayer that same day, and him and John Mayer are super tight. And Chappelle was like, yo, whatever you need from me, not only will I do that, bro, I'll come through for you and, like, I'll perform at one of your shows and for free, and donate it to charity. Like, I'll support you in any way because, I just appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your voice. So he a real one. And Erykah Badu, I only met her like one time. And, I'm just a huge fan of hers. So I reached out to her peoples and explained to her, I just wanted her to talk about Detroit because she's somebody else who would come to the D and work with Jay Dilla a lot. And just like, she was always in the city. Every time she got a concert there, it's sold out. People love her there. So, she from Dallas. That's like the other D-Town. And, they both call them both D-Town. And she just told her story. She just went very, very soul, Mother Earth deep on me,
she did. Yeah.
Like she does. And it was perfect. And for Stevie Wonder, I remember I got a call. Done. Man, so I get a call from Stevie Wonder this was like in April or May. I get a call from Stevie Wonder in the morning. I never talked to him ever in my life. I met him one other time. And I get a call early in the morning. He's like, hey, it's Stevie. And I'm like, Stevie, what the fuck? Like, okay, what's up? And he's like, man, Detroit is going through it real bad with COVID right now. Because Detroit was like the fourth market, the highest market in America. And Detroit doesn't even have 1 million people population-wise. It's like 15 times smaller than New York and LA, and it was number 3 or 4 of the many cases. And I know my mom's best friend had died. Literally almost like 9 out of 10 people of my best friends, like all had it. Some of them had asthma too. So I was worried that they were going to die. And people were dying. So he was like, yo, how can we help people in Detroit? And we ended up doing some behind the scenes stuff with our foundations and charity and whatnot. But then he asked me what I was working on. I told him, I'm working on this album called Detroit 2. And he was like, oh, I gotta hear it. I gotta check it out. Like, we gotta get it in. So months went by and I finally get in the studio with him at his studios, Wonderland Studios. And I explained to him, like, yo, I want him to tell a story just about Detroit, his experience. And he was like, yeah, I'll tell a story, but let me hear the music first. Let me hear some of the music.
Of course.
I played him the album, and he was like loving it, bro. And that was like one of the most proudest moments because I didn't play the music for a whole lot of people. I didn't know how people would react or respond to it. I remember he heard Guard Your Heart with me, Anderson .Paak and Wale, and he was like clapping and like just like, man, this is like amazing. And he was like, how can I be a part of the music? Like, how can we make some music? But I was turning my album in like in the next 48 hours. So I was thinking about pushing it back because obviously Stevie Wonder is my favorite of all time. That's like, he's the greatest singer-songwriter of all time to me. And, but then I was like, no, I can't even rush this. Like, if we do something, it got to be done like right. and with the proper time. So that's how it came about. That's how the story happened.
That's
you know.
dope.
That's dope.
Yo, Steve, yo, those stories. I mean, Chappelle's story is incredible because he talks about bombing in Detroit and just being off on stage, which is incredible.
And how my dad was there for him.
Yeah, like your dad, like brought him back, you
That's
know, and
so
made it all
good.
good.
That's
It's crazy.
That's so tight.
It's so tight.
Yeah.
Man, you did such a
Yeah.
great job, Big Sean, on this album, bro. That's all, man.
Thank you, man.
You just did
Thank
a great
you. I
job.
appreciate that.
It's a you know, it's just not, you know, artists go through tough times, and you know, we've all been around long enough to see that, and to see you get to the other side of some real hard times is it's uplifting, man. And like you said, if you put this together to inspire people and that's your motivation, that's fire, bro. Because you know, even hearing you talk about what you was dealing with friends and family with COVID, right? You know, we live in New York, so we know, you know, New York was hit hard.
Yeah. How was that for y'all? How did it affect you guys?
I mean, Rosenberg had it.
Well, I mean,
Damn.
did I?
You got the antibodies. You had it. You was sick.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had it, but I would never consider myself. I don't walk around being like I'm a COVID survivor.
No, not
It's
at all.
okay,
But
bro.
Okay.
but like it was. I'll tell you this. I always tell people when the first time I left New York to go back to D.C. to see my family, I realized how different it was being in New York. Because when you were in the city, and Laura contests this too, like. And it was at that time when 900 people were dying in the city and the state
A day.
900 a day. You were so shook to leave the house at that point. So when I went to Maryland and I saw people in the suburbs, I was like, oh, this is a different experience. Y'all just get to chill in your backyards. We were like,
Right.
In
it's
our
a city.
apartments.
You can't
Yeah.
leave. So it was wild.
Yeah,
out
New
there
York
for a
is
minute.
New York is like y'all. It's like so many germs shared in New York.
What?
It's like people everyone's touching everything. It's
How
like,
do you get
breathing
anywhere?
the same air. Your building got the same ventilation systems.
Yes.
You know,
All
you're on
the
the train, elevators, all of that. It was crazy,
man,
bro. And
that's
you
like
know,
a place where I would not want to be.
yeah,
like,
and you
during
know,
that
in the hood out here, it was like, you know, 80%, 75, 80% of essential workers in New York is black and brown people. That's all the workers. So all of our friends, like in Brooklyn, like there was people who like every other day a family member was dying. Or, you know, they was finding people in apartments that, you know, older people stuck in their apartment, they don't have no kids or whatever, they just lived in New York for mad years. Boom. Finding a dead body in an apartment. And that's before you get to the nursing homes. Like it was, 12 weeks, y'all?
Yeah,
Of-
it was tough.
of, like,
it was tough.
Between 700 and 900 people dying every day?
And especially
What did that do for
seeing
y'all mental? Like, how did y'all like? How was it making you feel?
We was scared. We were we're lucky because we get to get on the air every day. And we get to like encourage the audience and encourage each other. I mean, we definitely had days where we would just get on the air and be like, "Yo, we tired too, y'all. Like, we tired. We're tired. We're scared." We had those days. We had days where we took calls and just thanked nurses and doctors. You know, some days it was, you know, giving out masks. It was all of it. I mean, every day we did, you know, obviously the food pantries ran dry. So we had the food pantry people on trying to raise money for food because, you know, people weren't working. So they didn't have food. So
The hard part is everyone gets caught up being like, you know, hey, I'm healthy, you know, and I have a job, so I'm okay. We all feel this obligation. This goes back to what you were saying on some level earlier. We all are obligated to talk about how we're okay because there are people who are worse off. But there can be people who are worse off, and it can still be fucked up for us. You know, like you're still allowed to acknowledge, like I was alone. Like I've been alone. So when it went down, and you're in an apartment by yourself, like yes, I'm well-to-do. I'm in a nice neighborhood. I have a job. I'm very blessed. I'm still alone and not able to leave my apartment. You know what I'm saying? Like it was still an unpleasant situation.
Yeah, the
that's what
isolation was
people
getting
get
a
it-
lot
that's
of
what-
people.
That's where people get it fucked up. It's like just because you're not, you know, just because you are in a position that you work for that people may look at as like a privileged, like, like you're in an apartment, you're in a nice neighborhood or all these things, right? It's like, that still don't mean you can't feel a certain way. That still don't mean that it's like not hard, emotionally. It still don't mean that it's not fucked up.
Well, that's what you guys deal with all the time. I feel like artists always get questioned.
Well, yeah, bro. It was like, and I was confused, because it's like, this is all I ever wanted. Like, like I was up in middle school being like, I'm gonna be a rapper, sign a Def Jam. That was like my thing. I would tell everybody.
I remember.
And it was like I never closed it out of my head. So it's like I was confused when I was not happy. I didn't know what the fuck. I was like, damn, what is going on? I was questioning myself every single day. And it's just like, and while I moved into my dream house, it didn't make any sense that I was the most depressed, had the most anxiety, all these fears and just like all this shit, bro. It's like, it didn't make any sense to me, that it was like, why do I feel like this? And my mind was playing a lot of tricks on me, but it's just because even though that I was in a certain spot or a place, it was like, that still didn't mean I couldn't feel how I felt. And it didn't mean it wasn't real. You know what I'm saying? So you can't discount that at all.
Well, and I think too, your album Detroit too, and hearing you talk about going back to that deli, hearing you talk about, even on this album having so many Detroit artists, on that, what is it called? Friday Night Cypher, is that what it's called?
Yeah. That was tough to make. Oh my God.
I imagine so.
I was gonna that was gonna be my next, but there was a grounding, right, effect of you going back to Detroit, which took you back to a space where people call it a simpler time, but I think another way to look at it is to look at it as a time when all that mattered, your safety was tied to feeling safe, was tied to feeling love. It wasn't, your safety wasn't tied to a bank account, on a screen or the neighborhood you lived in, because your neighborhood probably wasn't really that safe, but you felt safe in it because it was yours and it was love and it was, you know what I mean? And that's why, hearing you talk about reminding yourself, or at least finding why, your purpose, like, why am I doing this? And having Detroit be a part of that why is just a victory for you in life. Like this is a big W, bro. Like, this is a huge W in life to even get to this point. Because some people never find this. They never get it, right? They think it's a relationship, or they think it's their kids, or they think it's a job, or they think it's a bank account, or they think it's a real estate investment, or they think it's vacations, or they think it's all of these other things outside of themselves, when really it's about the essence of who you are and your why. You know what I mean? Some people never get it, bro. It's a big W. Big W. So
doesn't always
congrats.
feel like it. Sometimes the big W's don't always feel like W's.
No, they don't. And it's like, for some reason I ain't even looking at it as a W. It's just kind of like I'm happy for sure. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, it just feels like it's just what I'm supposed to do, So it's like, it don't feel like a win or a loss, or it just feels kind of like this just is what it is, So it has been, I'll tell you what though, it's been like a hell of a ride so far, Just to be like, I've been through like ups and downs, and people like, think about it. I mean, I got my record deal in 2008, man. It's like 2020 now. I've seen people come and go so many times.
Bro, you did my first ever event at SOBs. You and Mike Posner did my birthday at SOBs in like July 2009, I think.
Yeah. Fuck. So it's just been a real honor to even like be on a ride like this, man. I've been able to collab with every artist I've ever respected in hip hop, period, that was alive. You
have multiple
and
Eminem
I only
joints.
collab with. I know that is like, Royce was like, I remember when I was doing this cypher, and Royce was like, "Did you ask Marshall? Like, did you?" I was like, "Man, I had him on my last album. I ain't trying to like push my luck." You know, it's like you can't just be asking again and
I don't want to ask
again.
too much.
Hey,
Yeah,
Sean
yeah.
again. I'm coming back out.
Yeah, yeah, and plus that song, the Friday Night Cypher, that was like it was like so many other artists on there that people may have not known that I was like trying to just give a platform and an opportunity to, and just have fun with it. You know, that show, the Friday Night Cypher, this is something that y'all should maybe consider because there's a lot of talent in New York. I mean, not right now, but when things start to get a little bit more back to normal, it's when MCs would come together, and it was just like the song. You would have like the whatever songs was popping at the time, put the instrumental on, and after they battle rap, you pick like the 8 best ones or the 10 best winners, and then they rap on air, and it just gives people a sense of like living their dreams out. You know, for some people that was like, even for me at the time, that was as big as it got for me. You know, I would get to do that every Friday night and get to hear myself on the radio because it was like a 30-minute delay. And I mean, it was nice. I was crying, you feel me? So it's like, it was life changing just for that. And I wanted to recreate that because that's how I ended up meeting Kanye too at the station, the same station, by having them connections, you know? So the song, you know, I just wanted to give people the opportunity. People may not know, some people do know, like obviously T Grizzly on there, Cash Doll, but then you got Cash Kid on there, you got Payroll on there, you got Drago on there, you got Sada Baby, you got Royce, me, Eminem, and it was a song that was hard to put together. It was a song that was Hit Boy came through and like we recreated some of the classic beats, just to give it some nostalgia. And it was like 30 verses we had to edit. A lot of the verses were long, so it was like trying to still make it listenable. And the only verse I didn't edit down was Eminem's, because it's just like you can't really touch his vocal like that.
Did the artists you were putting on, did any of them mention you cutting them down? Like, yo, I know you had to do, but yo, you cut some of my best bars. Because rappers will not care about the room they're in.
Sure.
They will tell you if you cut their bars. Like, they will let you know
certain things, man.
Cash Doll was the first one that hit me like, I'm just saying you cut my da-da-da. I'm like, I cut mine too. I'm like, Eminem's on here, right? She's like, yeah, you know. But she
whatever, fine.
But then when it dropped, she was like, oh yeah, you know. A lot of people, but I told people though, I didn't just let them hear it. I was like, I'm gonna at least call, I at least hit up every single person on the song and was like, hey, I had to cut your, like Bodie James. I'm like, hey, Bodie James had a longer verse. I was like, look, not because it wasn't dope enough or it wasn't fire. It's just like, I'm just trying to make it fit properly. You know what I mean? And not like people just get bored with it. And he understood. Everybody understood. And it was.
No, it's a great look for the city, man. It was just great. It's great.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people mad that they weren't on it or mad that I didn't include them. And it's just like, damn, it's crazy that when you put 10 people on a song, they'd be like, why you ain't put 15 people on there? I'm just like, damn.
You couldn't have won in that regard. You couldn't have. It's just impossible.
Yeah. Sean, before we go, you and Jhene always show so much positivity and upliftment. And it's just beautiful to see. So talk about body language and working with Ty Dolla $ign.
Man, so body language, that's like an old Detroit. That was like one of the first Detroit R&B local songs. It was only popping in Detroit. It was this song Soulful Moment, and they would play it at like all the high school dances, like on some slow jams, Quiet Storm, late night on the radio type vibes. And for years though, like it was a record that, I mean, I heard it last time I was in the city, like just, I think it was around Valentine's Day, I heard it on the radio. And I had this beat where I flipped it. My homie Key Wayne made it. And I had this beat since 2015. So
oh wow.
I wrote 5 or 6 different songs to this beat because I was just trying to figure it out. I'm weird. I'm fucked up like that. Like Hit Boy will tell you, I am somebody who like I'll write songs over and over. I'll write 8 verses to a song and like take the best parts and like put them together. Like there were times where me and Hit Boy were arguing a lot, and we would be screaming at each other. I remember one time, especially the intro. I'm gonna go back to Body Language, but on the intro, because I didn't like the intro that much at first because it was a different type of intro for me. It was like super hype. Like I ended up liking it at the very last second. And I just kept telling him, like, man, it's just something. And he was just like, what the fuck, man? You got to trust me, man. Like, I'm like, da-da-da, da-da-da. I'm like, bro, why the fuck you don't think I trust you, bro? Like, obviously I trust you. That's why I'm telling you, bro. I don't feel, like, comfortable. And, he made, like, 5 different beats. He made, like, 5 different beats for that intro alone. And he never had to do that. So he was, like, at the end, he thanked me because he was like, I ain't never been pushed like that as a producer. But it's just, I'm weird like that. Like, if I don't feel something, I got to, like, keep going at it. And I don't care how long it takes, And another person I met like that is Eminem. But, okay, to go back to Body Language, I got with Ty Dolla $ign in the studio, and I played him the beat randomly. We was working on some other stuff, and he heard it, and he ended up writing the body to body, cheek to cheek. Like, it was so simple because it was the sample. And I was just like, damn, all this time, I've been overthinking it, like trying to come up with something like I had all these different hooks to it. And when he did that, I wrote a final version, like of my verses. And then I played it for Jhene. And then she liked it. She was like, oh, this is hard. And, I was like, you should just hop on it. And she did. And then we got together in the studio and was like working on her verse. And, she's super special. I feel like she's like the best, at what she does. So it just all meshed together well. And, easy. It's always easy working with her for sure.
I was going to say, because that 2088 on here is dope too. Are y'all going to do another 2088 project? Y'all going to do another whole project like that?
Yeah, I hope so. I think so. I remember when I was playing it for Jay Electronica, that was like his favorite song. He like asked to hear that one back to back. And collabing with her is like one of the easiest things ever, when we both are in the mood, because when you in a relationship too, it's like sometimes you could be irritated with each other.
Right.
It's tough to put the irritation aside.
Yeah, and I'm sure sometimes you just want to separate that life, like let me just be with my girl.
Over nothing too. Yeah, over nothing. It could be like about a documentary we just saw, and they'd be like, "Well, I think," but she's very like, me and her be having like good conversation, and it doesn't ever really turn to arguments, but it just turns. And her granddad was a lawyer, so she's like very debatable. We can like debate about something. And she would have been a good lawyer for sure, because she'll be like, I didn't say that. I said, it'll be like, for example, this is like not a real scenario, but it'll be like, I didn't say the drink was good. I said it was refreshing. I didn't say good. I'll be like, oh, okay.
Yo, that's fire.
But she is one of the things in a great way though, it's like one of the reasons I love her, because it's taught me to really pay attention to my words, pay attention to like detail, It's one of the things she taught me. So I think another 2088 I don't see why it wouldn't happen.
That's dope, man. Keep going, man. Well, look, man, everybody go get that Detroit too. It seems like everybody already went and streamed it. That's for goddamn sure.
Yep.
But if you haven't, you need to go ahead and do that, because it's a great listen. And as far as hip-hop albums, there's a lot of hip-hop albums that get put together. We talk about this on the show a lot, where it's just it's a lot of great songs put together in one place, but it's not a thought-out project often, And every now and then in hip-hop, there's a well-thought-out, well put together, well sequenced, well produced, well written project, and this is one of them, man. And salute for and thank you for delivering that, bruh, and putting that time into it.
Thank you. That was my goal. I felt the same way. I feel like it wasn't a lot of projects that felt like like how I used to feel to me. You know, like when I was coming up, it didn't feel like, it just felt like they were more like projects and not albums. You know, so I was like, let me try my best to really put an album together. So it's good to hear you say that, man. That's like one of the things that was one of my goals. That was one of the things that I wrote down on my whiteboard, was to like make it feel like an album to people. For real.
does.
Big
Congrats,
Sean,
bro.
ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, sir.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Nah, for sure.